Check the description for the following discount codes. I was actually quite excited to have a little play with this GT Champion 4 actuator motion system from PT Actuator. I've got their Scorpion actuators on my rig in the background over there, 4 uprights, and I also have traction loss and surge, and that's on kind of like a permanent loan from raceathome.co.uk, who sent me this over for review. They're kind of like the UK supplier for PT Actuator. They actually make here in the UK the low rider and low slider. I'll put a little clip up of what I've got here, which is the low rider, traction loss and surge. The low slider also has a front actuator to give you proper drift from left to right, both front and rear, whereas the one I've got here has just got the rear traction loss actuator. I couldn't have the recently introduced low slider because my rig would smash into my monitors either side if I was to have the front end move, which is the only reason why I don't have that here as well. But anyway, that's who sent this over to me for review. And I've had no issues with that PT Actuator setup at all since running it for the last probably 2 years or so, something like that, maybe 18 months. Now, that comes with a fair price tag, as do a lot of other systems. You know, the D-Box stuff, for example, is just crazy money and far out of reach for most of us. This PT Actuator kit here comes in the UK with VAT and shipping at £4,800. There will also be a discount link in the description here. I'm not sure exactly how much yet. Bob from Race at Home hasn't finalised it yet, but it'll be there, either be a code or a link or both. But there is a discount. Yeah, 4,800 in the UK with VAT and delivery, and to the rest of the world, where you don't have to pay VAT, it's £4,000 plus whatever the shipping is to your country. Now, the spec of these I'll put up on the screen now. So we have heave pitch roll, 125mm at plus or minus 250 millimeters a second. So that's actually pretty nippy, and I can tell you in use it's more than responsive enough. And the travel of 125mm is also, I would say, plenty for most people. I have 200, I think I have 150 or 200 even on those Scorpions, 200 I think. And that is ridiculous. You know, it will launch me out of my seat if I let it. Now the maximum payload here, 300 kilograms. The Prime Light, the GT Amiga Prime Light that you'll see me testing this on, which is an 8040 aluminium profile rig, and there's discounts for that in the description should you want one, because it's a great little cockpit. That weighs about 60 kilos with a seat. So you've still got 240 kilos left for your, let's say you put 40 kilos worth of, I don't know, steering wheel. No, it's impossible. You'd never have 40 kilos worth. Let's go 20 kilos for your steering wheel, your pedals, your shifter, your handbrake. You've still got 220 kilos left of available body weight, which for you American viewers is somewhere in the region of 480 pounds. So these can definitely shift enough weight for anybody with any and all accessories on there. Now, obviously, if you have a larger aluminium profile rig, like the full-size Prime I have in the background, I think that's only an additional 20 kilos. So you've still got plenty of overhead. So the travel, the response time, and their maximum load capacity is more than enough. Oh, it actually gives you the weight of the system here as well, of course. So the whole system weighs 34 kilos because part of the weight of this will be being lifted, all bar like the foot on the bottom and the bit that's extending out, I suppose. So you've got another 34 kilos or 75 pounds roughly there of weight. And then here's the dimensions on the bottom of this spec sheet, should you want to know what they are. Now, what does this 125mm equate to in real terms? As in, how much travel is that really? Let me put up a little clip now of, this is just like a test sort of program mode that you can put the controller in, and it will simply put the actuators all the way down, all the way up, all the way down, all the way up on a continuous cycle over and over and over again. So you can see here just how smooth they move, and in fact the microphone is on, so you'll hear the noise they make as well during this clip. I'll leave the audio up, you pretty much don't hear anything. And this is what it looks like, you know, the entire rig going up and down. And then I've got another clip here of it just sort of close up on one of the legs. Let me just stick that up now as well, so you can really, and again, the microphone's much closer now, so wherever, I'll be quiet, and whatever you hear is the level of noise these make in sort of slow, steady, smooth operation. So have a listen. So I would say they're pretty quiet, which is great. No issues there. What what will make noise is you and your rig being flung around, because these things really do. You wait till you see the dirt rally clip. Honestly, it's super impressive for the price. You know, yes, there are sort of DIY options that you can do cheaper. I think a lot of people use the SFX 100 or 1000, whatever it is. But this, as a plug and play, all done and dusted using the Sim Racing Studio software to control it, I don't think you can really go wrong for £4,800. The build quality of the actuators, as far as I can tell, obviously I haven't stripped them down, they feel very solid, very heavy, and like I say, my Scorpions that I've been running for years, I've had no issues with those whatsoever. You know, I initially thought they bolted on using these 4 bolt holes here, which is how my Scorpions do, but they don't. The brackets go on the bottom here. In fact, you can see I've left the brackets on just to give you a little close-up, and you've got your T-nuts on the back, and obviously it bolts onto the side, as you see in the clips. These feet, initially I thought these were the heads of bolts sticking through, and I thought, oh, they're not going to do people's floors any good. They're actually 4 little rubber feet on there. So if you've got, you know, a hard wooden floor or something, you're okay. You're not going to have any damage there at all. You can see how much this can sort of articulate as well, because the rig does, you know, move around depending what's going on with the terrain and what you're doing in the sim title. But it comes with all the fixtures, the fittings and the bolts. In fact, let me put a clip up now showing you what came in the box, and you might even see, I think I actually pan over to this A4 sheet of paper that's on the worktop here as well, with a very amusing note from Bob at Race at Home. So here's the main brackets. You can see the welding isn't exactly the best. There's a bit of spatter on there that hasn't been cleaned off, but it's sufficient. I don't think it's going to break off. And then obviously this is the actuator itself. The hot glue on the back of the plug you see here is it's on some of the early kits that come out. Them plugs have now been replaced with aviation style plugs. So if you buy into this early, you may find you've got hot glue on the black, which I just think, I spoke to Race at Home about this, and he spoke to Sheo from PT Actuator and said, yeah, we've changed that now. Because I made a joke saying it looks like a Chinaman's had a good time whilst assembling these and shot his load all over the back of the plug. So not the best impression really. But yeah, you may or may not end up with, I think Bob is trying to get his stock replaced with these ones with the white gears on the back for ones with the aviation plugs. But you can see in the clip here, everything you get, your nuts, your bolts, your emergency stop box, USB cable, Ethernet cable, or Ethernet cable, sorry, that goes to your emergency stop button. And then this is the controller itself. The wiring is hardwired in, as you can see, but it's all labelled and it's super easy to, everything's literally plug and play. Yes, and here's the note from Bob. Packed with great care by an idiot. If you're looking for instructions, so am I. Because yes, it didn't come with instructions, but it doesn't need instructions because it is that simple. There is literally 2 plugs on each actuator and 2 wires coming out of the controller labelled for each actuator. So you bolt this to your rig, you set your control box under your seat or wherever you might want it to be, and they're different plugs, so you can't plug them into the wrong ones. So you just go right, front left, front right, rear left, rear right, job done. Power cable, USB cable, emergency stop. And that is literally all there is to it. It was actually really nice to be able to just plug something in and it actually work without any problems. The SRS Sim Racing Studio software is tried and tested, been around for years. We use it for motion systems, wind simulations, the active seatbelt kit, all sorts, and that's really good. I might put a quick clip up of that now, but there's not really much to see there other than, you know, you can make your adjustments, you can run test patterns to make sure everything's working properly. It's very, very intuitive and easy to use software. But yeah, this is the close-up of the emergency stop button. It's got 4 holes and even a little one in the middle there, should you be sort of self-tapping into something, I suppose, because it's quite small. The other one holes are M6. The buttons themselves, they feel with average quality, certainly not the best, but certainly not the worst I've felt, and the same goes for the emergency stop button itself. Push it in, twist to release. These light up, and if you read the text on there, it shows you what each colour and or flashing status actually means. So that's a nice little thing to have. Should it have a wobbly and go absolutely crazy and start launching you around or whatever, or maybe a pet comes in the room and you're worried, you know, it's going to get underneath the rig, bosh, stop, get it off. Although when you do that, it does sink straight to the ground. So pros and cons. Might be better to pause the game and then get your cat out of the room and then carry on. Who knows? But that's what that looks like. So, like overall with this kit, everything seems of decent quality. Not the best, but certainly a long way from the worst. Like I say, the welding, a little bit of weld spatter here and there, not amazing, but not the end of the world. The hot glue on the back of these connectors, obviously not the way to do things, and that's why it's already been changed. But the actual performance, I haven't put any clips up yet, have I? All right, let's get a clip up of me in Dirt Rally then. Let's get that one on the go. So you really see me, you know, I'm feeling all the road textures, all the lumps, all the bumps, cattle grids, everything, a bit like you do with tactile transducers, but rather than just having a vibration to make me, you know, sort of feel what's going on in the game, the motion system literally moves you up and down. So you vibrate and you move just as you would if you were rolling over these things, you know, in real life, or as close to real life as of course we can. And then when it comes to the big jumps, honestly, 125 mils seems to be more than enough, as you'll see in this clip. These big jumps, I'm really being launched. Like, you know, the whole rig goes up and then it smashes down to the ground as I smash down to the ground. It's just an excellent experience. And of course, what I've had with my Prime, my full-size Prime and the Scorpions for the last couple of years, I was super impressed with how well this smaller kit does for the price. You know, for just shy of £5,000, I think you can't really go wrong. Now, of course, in other titles that aren't quite so aggressive, so let's put up a clip of ACC. Where is it? Here it is. Yeah, other titles that aren't so aggressive, obviously it doesn't look anywhere near as impressive, but it wouldn't do, you know, when you're racing around a smooth track, but you're still getting all the texture of the road, rumble strips, the little lumps and bumps and undulations that are there on a track, because you'll know if you've ever driven a race car, very firm suspension, any undulations, lumps or bumps, you really do feel it in the vehicle. And also here at Brands Hatch, you know, it's quite hilly. You go up hills, down hills, you'll see the rig lifting up and tilting down at the forward and the rear as you're going up and down the slopes, which really gives you that feeling that you're there on the track and you're moving. And then there's actually a little bit, let me find that bit of footage where I specifically go off the track onto the grass, just to show you that, you know, even in titles that are mostly smooth, because you should be on the track, should you go off the track and onto the grass, this will start bumping you around, literally matching what you see on screen, and sling you about almost as much as you got slung about in Dirt Rally, aside from actually jumping. So, you know, should you veer off track, you really know that you veered off track, you know. And again, you look at the speed it responds. It's just, I'm just super impressed. I think it's a great piece of kit, and you can probably tell that from my enthusiastic tone of voice and the big smile on my stupid face as I'm smashing away down the grass verges at Brands Hatch here, which of course you should never do. Now, what is interesting about this kit is obviously it's just 4 vertical actuators. I'm used to having traction loss and surge, and if you ever want to sell someone the benefits of traction loss and surge, get them to spend half an hour in a rig with traction loss and surge, and then put them in a rig that doesn't have it and just has 4 upright actuators. I noticed instantly the lack of surge primarily, because I'm used to moving forward every time I accelerate in my big rig there. Just like you would in real life, when you're sat still and you launch at the start of a rally stage, obviously the car goes forward. And that's how I've got that set up as well. I'm not going to argue the pros and cons of the people that have it go backwards when you move forwards and all this sort of stuff. You set yours up how you want. For me, car goes forward in real life, rig goes forward. That's the way it should be. So yeah, when I put my boot down or release the handbrake to launch in Dirt Rally, I'm used to launching off the line quite aggressively. And of course it doesn't do it. And again, in Dirt Rally, where I'm used to drifting around the corners and feeling myself move across, and it's not happening. My body was missing those cues that I'm used to. So yeah, if you ever want to try and upsell somebody to to a low rider or a low slider, put them in one and then put them in a rig that doesn't have it, like this, and like the difference is incredible. Your brain instantly goes, well, hey, why am I not moving forwards when I accelerate? But you know, there's obviously a huge price difference. That's an additional thing. Now that's a good point actually. With this GT Champion kit, there are no upgrade options. You cannot currently add a low rider or low slider because they do not physically fit. And in addition to that, even if they did change the dimensions to make them fit for these actuators, there's no, because the controller for this is all integrated as one and hardwired, there's no way to add an additional 2 outputs for 2 additional actuators to run your traction loss and your surge, or 3 additional ones if you went with the low slider. So this would be something you would buy, and that would be what you have, at least for now. But I think at the price of £4,800, this is actually, should I have been looking for a motion system, that's something I could have saved up and bought, you know, bearing in mind the price of some of the other stuff we spend on sim racing gear, £1,500 wheelbases, or even £1,000 wheelbases, £400 steering wheels, you know, £500 cockpits, £200 chairs. £4,800 for a motion system that moves you around, or can do as much as what you've seen in my clips today, I really don't think is bad value, especially when we look at something like so I mentioned D-Box very briefly earlier. Let me just put up their current offerings. The closest one they have to this is a Generation 3 4250i 3 haptic system. The 3, I believe, stands for 3 inches of travel, because as it says there, 3 inches of travel. Now 3 inches of travel is 78 mil. This PT actuator kit is 125 mil. So we're almost double the travel. Like, this is the closest I can match it up to with D-Box. They want $27,000 US. 27,470. This is £4,000. Like, and then whatever the shipping is to the States. £4,000 is what? Five and a half thousand US. Certainly not 27 grand. Now D-Box, obviously they have a big name and they're established and they can leverage that name. But ultimately you're getting almost half the travel for like 5 times the price. I just think it's ridiculous. Anyway, as far as I'm concerned, GT Champion kit from PT Actuator and sold here in the UK and wherever else you might want to buy it from in the world, from Race at Home, is a good value motion system. Great amount of travel, very responsive, plug and play, was super easy, literally can't get it wrong. And the software from SRS is very easy to use, and there's lots of existing profiles out there for the SRS software if you don't fancy mussing about and trying to tune it yourself. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Discounted link in the description to this and to everything else in my videos, the GT Amiga Prime and Prime Lite, Fanatic stuff, whatever. There's plenty of discounts there. So have a little browse through. Yeah, thanks for watching, and as always, take it easy.